This is what you answer. Got it? This is what you answer. From this point on, this is standard. Exactly. Now, here's the deal. Let's read what they tell you here. So at the beginning, essay time 25 minutes. Write your essay on the separate sheets of the standard lined paper. This essay gives you the opportunity to show how effectively you can develop and express your ideas. You should therefore take care to develop your point of view. Present your ideas. Here. Present your ideas logically and clearly, and use language precisely. Your essay must be written on the lines provided on your answer sheet. You will receive no other paper on which to write. You will have enough space if you write on every line. That's exactly what I told you. Avoid the margins and keep your handwriting to a reasonable size. Listen, this, when I told you, shucks, we don't have it here for some reason. But you have the page in front of you, right? Basically, they scan only what's inside of. I need it again. You know what? Yeah. Exactly. They scan only what's here. Only what's here between these markings. Got it? Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I would suggest that you do leave. Yeah. You need to leave a line. Now, if I were in your shoes, not to mention, again, I'm not a native English speaker, so I don't write very quickly, right? So that means maybe if I can space it just a little bit, maybe it'll create a slightly more organized impression. Yes, absolutely. If I were in your shoes, I would definitely leave an empty line between two adjacent paragraphs. Your essay must be written on the lines provided. You will have enough space if you write it on, keep it up. Remember that people who are not familiar with your handwriting will read what you write. Try to write or print so that what you are writing is legible. What's legible? Kari. To those readers, important reminder, a pencil is required for the essay. It's only a pencil, a number 2 pencil. Do not write your essay in your test book. That's exactly what I told you. That's the exam workbook. An off-topic essay will receive a score of 0, and you have 25 minutes to write an essay on the topic assigned below. Now, here's the deal. I told you that this is the important thing. Please indicate this is the important. This is just to give you some kind of background.
Do we need to read it?
No, you don't. But here's the deal. Let's say, is apathy a problem? Let's say I read this. Is apathy a problem in today's society? Brilliant. Exactly. Got it? If you have a lot to say, and by the way, maybe you're not going to believe me, but I think, just a gut feeling, that the average Israeli student has slightly more general knowledge than the average, American student. I think. I'm not positive about that. So that means, and by the way, I know a couple, I've known brilliant people who have no general knowledge whatsoever. But if you do have some general knowledge, usually it's going to be easier to... What is that? Okay. I was afraid that it was your earlobe. It's huge. Okay. So, let's read these, and as I told you, this is standard. Rather than essay in which you answer this question and discuss your point of view on the issue, support your position logically with examples from, highlight this please, examples from literature, the arts, history, politics, science and technology, current events, or your experience or observation. Got it? So, yes, my experience matters. On the other hand, on the other hand, it's number 8 out of 8, something of that sort. Got it? So, if you can, if you can support what it is that you want to say using a literary example, that's fantastic. If you can't, and you just say, when I was in the 2nd grade, I had a fantastic teacher, blah, 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 then that would be okay as well, but it's not going to be as good. So remember, the prompt is not that important. If you know, תגידו לי בבקשה, אפתיה זו בעיה בחברה שלנו? כן. כן. מי לא יודע מה זה אפתיה? מה ההפך של אפתיה? empathy, right? I'm empathetic, I'm sympathetic, אכפת לי מאנשים אחרים, אני מרגיש מה שאנשים... נכון, לא, זה אפתיות in today's society, right? מישהו שהוא אדיש לגורל של אנשים אחרים בחברה, מדובר על ההיבט החברתי. Okay, so this is apathy, a problem in today's society. So if I have enough to say, then, you know what, I'm going to start working. If I don't have enough to say, then I'm going to go back into the problem because I want to get some ideas about it. Got it? I want to get some ideas.
But you have to read.
No, again, only if you have nothing to say about this. Oh, this?
Yeah.
No. We just read it once. That's it. All that you need to do is to support your point of view. That's it. This is standard. Okay, so let's go back to the handout. Let's go back to the handout. First of all, read the prompts. This is what I told you. And carefully read the assignment and its instructions. I'm going to put this and because the instructions, listen, just whiz through the instructions just to make sure that the instructions didn't change, but they haven't the past couple of years, so it's not likely that they will. Identify the issue and the argument and simplify it. So basically, what they tell me is apathy, a problem. That is it. This is my simplification. Got it? I'm not going to do much more than that. But I'm going to spend a couple of seconds, like 3 seconds, writing this because sometimes, because it helps me, first of all, familiarize myself with this. Not to mention the fact sometimes you have a lengthier argument with a cause and an effect. Now, here is the deal. What I want you guys to do before you start typing, is put together a table of pros and cons. Pros is, yes, I do think it's a problem, and cons is, no, I do not think it's a problem, right? Now, I know when I'm saying this to you, that some of you right now are going like, I have no idea, right? I mean, even if I do feel that it is a problem, I have no idea on how I'm going to write about it, right? And this is exactly what I'm being judged on. I'm being judged on my words, not on my feelings. So what do I do? And this is something that does not show up here, so please write it down. בסדר? לגבי הפרוס והקונס. תזכרו את זה בבקשה, זה טריק ממש נחמד.
מתחת לאחד.
לגבי הפרוס והקונס, בסדר? אני רושם כאן משהו קטן. אם קשה לנו לחשוב על טיעון בעד או נגד, אני רואה הרבה מכם כותבים במחברת במקום על הדף. כן? אוקיי. אם קשה לנו לחשוב על טיעון בעד או נגד, so if it's difficult for us to think about an argument, to think about either a pro or a con, רצוי לחשוב על דוגמה ספציפית שקשורה לנושא. וממנה להנדס לאחור. So we need to think about a specific example. And from it, להנדס לאחור, בדיוק. להנדס לאחור את הטיעון. נקודה. And then reverse engineer the argument. נקודה. ניתן להשתמש גם בטיעון וגם בדוגמה במהלך החיבור. So, here is the deal. Is apathy a problem? Yes, I think it is a problem, but I have no idea what to say about it. So, this is what I asked you guys to do. Think about an example. Don't give me an argument. מהר, בלי לחשוב יותר מדי. תנו לי דוגמה לאפתיות. תנו לי חוסר אכפתיות של אנשים בחברה של ימינו.
נו, כן, אנשים של השואה שהיום מתייחסים.
את יודעת איך לכתוב שואה? את יודעת איך לכתוב את זה?
H.
אוקיי. אז אנחנו יודעים, so we know how to spell Holocaust. זה כאוסטה, נכון? כאוסט. So we know how to spell that, and you're saying, okay, this is an example. This is the first thing that came to her mind. Maybe it's not the first thing that's going to come to your mind. But here's the deal. It doesn't matter what you come up with, you're always going to be able to make it into an argument. Fantastic. So yeah, you think about the Holocaust, and so the way that we treat
the people who survived.
Holocaust survivors, exactly, how we treat those today. And you say that if a country cannot, financially support its weakest links, its weakest members, people who the country owes its very existence to, obviously apathy is a problem. Consider the following example. In my country, Israel, there are many Holocaust survivors, but still, in spite of them escaping hell on earth, the government does not see it fit to support them financially. אז היא אומרת, זה טיעון מאוד מאוד טוב, היא בעצם אמרה, מהדוגמה הקטנה הזו, ששואה אנחנו חושבים, רגע, a society is measured based on how it treats its weakest members, right? And if a society cannot treat its weakest members well, that means that that society is completely apathetic and has no right to survive in and of its own. Consider the following example. Got it? So when she's going to type this, the person who's going to read it, the grader, is going to go like, wow, the example that she gave, listen, this is very cute. The example that she gave fits like a glove, right? And they don't know that basically what she did is she came up with the example first and then came up with the argument. And that is why the argument fits the example so well. Got it? So this is a very, very nice tip. Now, here's the deal. Sometimes people tell me if it's about a topic that I'm connected, that I can connect with, I'm going to write a good essay. But if it's about a topic I cannot connect with, I'm going to write a crappy essay. Nonsense. My point is, you can always write a good essay. You need to be adept at this. Give me another example. Any example, and we will be able to put an argument. Yeah. What do you think? No. Yeah. Don't forget that how many distinct ideas do you need to... Exactly, 3. So this was 1. This was just, an indication that current-day society does not treat its weakest members well, right? So this was only 1 idea. No. I deliberately want... Give me an example of apathy. Any example of apathy? Just a second. I'm sorry? I'm sorry? Okay, refugees. Where? What kind of refugees? English, please. Okay, plitim. No, so okay, let's think in Hebrew. So plitim, yeah.
כן, אפשר לדבר על פליטים בגבול מצרים, אפשר לדבר על פליטים בדרום תל אביב.
מצוין. So you can start with the local, right, with the national, and then you can move on to, moreover, let's say paragraph 3, right, because paragraph 2 was the second idea and the first paragraph was the introduction. Moreover, she can say, apathy is not merely a problem in my country, but it's also an international problem. Nowadays, wars uproot thousands and hundreds of thousands of refugees, which multiple countries refuse to accept, which creates migration. Consider the following example, right? In Eritrea, we have a civil war, and those refugees crossed multiple lines, multiple borders, right? Until they got to the border of Israel. And in fact, Shevach Weiss, by the way, who is a member of parliament, who is, I think, is a Holocaust survivor, but maybe I'm wrong, Shevach Weiss? Okay. He said, by the way, that if Israel, a country whose people were refused entry during the World War II, is not going to give sanctuary to Eritreans, that means that Israel does not have a right to exist. Got it? This is something that an Israeli parliament or a former parliament member said. Got it? So you can say, moreover, the problem is not only national, but it's international. It's not only an Israeli quote-unquote problem, it's also a problem of Egypt and of Morocco and of all of these countries that the Eritreans crossed the borders of until they got to Israel. Got it? And then you basically definitely say that it's more of a problem than you thought. Okay, yeah. But it's kind of similar, yeah.
כאילו רעיון כזה טוב להביע דעה כאילו כל כך נחרצת, נגיד כמו השואה. להגיד, כאילו, איך תדע מי זה שבודק את זה? אולי, כאילו, ברסום זה שמונה שלי.
אבל הוא לא מביע את העמדה, הוא בודק מה את כותבת.
אבל ברור, אבל יש אנשים שעדיין, אם את אומרת דעה שהם נגיד מאוד...
Listen. If anything, if you want to be safe in academia, if anything, you need to be left-leaning than right-leaning. That makes more sense, right? If you're going to talk about a persecuted minority, it doesn't matter which minority you're going to talk. Just say you're going to be talking about. You are probably going to get, brownie points. You're probably going to get a positive score. If you're going to say, well, if you're going to talk about the Israel-Palestine situation, right? And you're going to say, yeah, I was at the IDF, and I think occupation is the right way to go, and the Arabs, this is the only thing that they understand. Forget about my opinion, forget about your opinion, this is something that might create that you will get much more flack for. Got it? But if you're talking about a minority, it doesn't matter if it's the Jewish, Arab, or Eritrean minority, it's if anything, it's good. I know that Americans are slightly more politically correct than we are. So sometimes it's a good idea to steer clear of controversial topics. I don't think, that 50, 60 years later, there's any doubt that the Holocaust was a bad thing. No. Let me give you an example. Haifa University contains a huge chunk of people who are anti-Zionists. Jewish people who are anti-Zionists. I had a student from Haifa University, and she wrote some pretty strong words against the state of Israel. Now, I happen to be a Zionist, right? אני כן חושב שזה רעיון טוב, שיש לנו מדינה. But I told her, you know what, it doesn't matter, my opinion doesn't matter. She came up to me after she wrote it, and she told me, hopefully it was, it didn't offend you or anything. I told her, listen, I told her, listen, my opinion doesn't matter, your opinion doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is, were you able to support what you wrote? And was she able to? Yes. So that's it. So she got a 5.5 out of 6 on a GRE essay. She's brilliant, bro. Got it? I'm assuming that and don't forget that they're not the only person who's grading you. Got it? So another person grades you. So even if they are, neo-Nazis in the U.S., right? Which is highly, highly unlikely that they will be the ones to grade SAT essays. If they give you a 2 because they know, she's a Jewess, right? She's a Jew. If they give you a 2 and somebody else reads it, in New York and goes like, which is Jewtown, right? And they read it and they go like, oh, that's a 4.5. There is a huge discrepancy. So somebody else is going to read it, and the neo-Nazi is going to lose his job. Got it? Yeah. One last remark. Yes. הם יודעים כבר את העבודה. They don't care about your opinion. Honestly, I don't mean to offend anyone, but nobody cares about our opinions here. They only care about, can we put together a strong case? That's it. Exactly. Logically.
תוך כמה זמן בודקים את זה? זה יכול להיות ממש אקראי כזה וכזה טוב, אני על זה מוריד כי זה המשפט ארוך מדי ועל זה מוריד כי זה...
No, they have rubrics, they have criteria according to the check. Yeah, they publish it.
זה עבודה מתסכלת.
Oh, come on, let's continue. So, blah, blah, blah. So, you put together pros and cons. So, let's say, yes, I think it is a problem. No, I think it's not a problem. For example, if I'm talking about internet, let's say e-tributes, right? Or you contribute money, right? You donate money. And we have Wikipedia, for example. But altogether, I think that, maybe more people are connected via online, but they're not really friends, which obviously gives me the example of Facebook, right? And gives me the example, we talked about Eritrean refugees, and we talked about Holocaust survivors, right? So we can say that you know what? This is the way I'm going to build it. So after you put together all of these ideas, and this is about the way that it's going to look, you're not going to have enough time to make it look nice. After that, what is not written here, I want you guys to put numbers next to our points, next to our arguments. So let's say this is going to be argument number 1, argument number 2, argument number 3, argument number 4, argument number 5. Let's say these are the things I came up with, and then I look at the clock, and let's say 3 minutes have lapsed. That means that I have to move on. So what am I going to ask you guys to do is put together the structure. Write down the structure of the essay. Before you type, before you write, you need to have the structure of the essay ready. Got it? So I know that I'm always going to start with some kind of an introduction, and I'm always going to end with some kind of a summary, right? Now, we have the con, right? The contribute money and Wikipedia, for example, that people care for knowledge and care about another, and they don't get paid for it. But still, we have Holocaust survivors and Eritrean refugees and Facebook. So what do you think? First of all, are we for it or are we against it? We are for the opinion that apathy is a problem. Okay, now my question to you guys is, what is our best argument here? What is the best argument? I'm sorry? I don't think so. You know what? I think that...
Through the Facebook.
You know what? You know what? Let me take it back. This is kind of exceptional, actually. But I do think that it's the best argument, but I'm not going to put my best leg forward. You see my point? I always, and this is I think this is the only time I ever said this sentence. But you know what? There is while we were talking, because somebody mentioned you mentioned the refugees, right? So I realized, oh, that's an international problem, right? And Holocaust refugees, that's a national problem. And then I went like, oh, so Facebook is societal. It's a global problem, but it's also about relationships between two friends, and the concept of the devaluation, right, of the concept of what a friend is. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Facebook. I'm going to say it's a problem within every society, and then I'm going to move on to Holocaust survivors. Then I'm going to move on to Eritrean refugees, and I'm going to even tie it back to Facebook because, like he said, it's a global problem. It's indicative of what happens all over. And you know what? Here, if I have enough time, I'm going to mention 1 and 2. You know what? The contribution is not really good, so forget about that. I'm going to mention, Wikipedia as some kind of something that contradicts with my opinion. But I'm gonna say, yeah, some might say that Wikipedia is indicative of how people do care for one another and do want to share knowledge. However, if you contrast that with the other points, obviously it doesn't make up for the apathy that is rampant. Rampant, just to say, that is rampant in our society. Rampant. Rampant זה פוסה, או פוסה. המחלה פסתה בגופו, מישהו מכיר את זה? אף אחד לא שמע את זה בעברית? rampant זה פוסה, זה משהו שלילי שהוא נפוץ. משהו שלילי שהוא נפוץ, בסדר?
שמתפשט כאילו?
כן, בדיוק. Let's say corruption in Turkey is rampant. Another word, by the way, rife. Same exact thing, rife. לפני כן. נוי שאלת אותי איך פייסבוק קשור. I would say that apathy in a פסקה. בסדר? Let's say paragraph one before. Introduction. I think that apathy is definitely... אני יודע שאני לא כותב מהר, אז אני אמעט בדברים. I think that apathy is a huge problem in today's society. Colin, זו הייתה הפסקה הראשונה שלי. First. בסדר? ואז אני נכנס כבר לפסקה השנייה. First. We create technology, and technology in turn changes us. Period. So, comma, whereas nowadays people have more ways than ever to communicate with one another, comma, those very means make interpersonal relationships much more shallow and not as deep, period. Consider the following example. Facebook, period. Facebook, open parenthesis, FB, close parenthesis. So from now on, I'm just going to write FB. I'm not going to write Facebook because I don't have enough time to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Facebook has approximately 1 billion members, many of whom are friends. I'm going to put friends in quotation marks, right? Exactly. Many of whom are friends, but in actuality, what Facebook has done is completely devoid the term friend of its meaning. I may have 620 friends, but in actuality, I'm very lonely, or my friends, or you can talk about, I have a friend who has 620 friends. She may have 620 friends, but at the end of the day, she's very lonely and she's very unpopular. So, she finds comfort in that electronic world and has complete apathy for the people in her family and feels completely estranged. Moreover, the problem of apathy is not only on the interpersonal level, but it's also on the national level. And then I talk about the Holocaust survivors. Yeah.
כאילו, אמרת פה ממש הרבה דברים פשוט רעים על פייסבוק, ואז...
לא התחלתי עם זה כך.
בסוף משפט, כאילו במילה אחת אמרת שהיא אפתית כלפי אנשים, ואז כאילו בכלל יכול לחשוב שאתה כותב על פייסבוק, ולא שאתה אפתי כלפי האנשים.
No. Actually, what I was saying is, and I opened with it, and it's a shame that we don't have a transcript because I just made it up. What happens is that I said that technology allows us nowadays in more ways to connect with one another, more so than at any other point in history, right? But the fact that it allows for so many, interpersonal connections is the enemy of intimacy. Exactly. That's exactly what's damaging intimacy. And I just gave, an example that I know that they're going to know, right? Facebook. One point somebody told me about, there is an artwork next to Israeli Center, and the artwork, and he just left it at that. I'm sorry, I'm Israeli, I spent some time, I went by Israeli a couple of times and still I didn't know what he was talking about. Are you expecting somebody from Idaho to know what you're talking about? So if I can give an example of Holocaust, which most people wouldn't know about, but if I can give an example of Facebook, which everybody knows about, then that's a better idea. But you see what I did here? Question to you guys, why am I using numbers here? Why am I not writing these? Double work, exactly. I want to refrain from double work. Got it? It's much easier to move numbers around than it is to move the entire thing. This was very organic. Pros and cons, I needed to organize it. After that, I'm just going to start, I do think, by the way, that your example was the best one, and not my example of Facebook. But I didn't start with it because I wanted to show, hey, it's a problem everywhere, on all levels, got it? But usually I would have put my best foot forward, I would have started with the best argument that I can come up with. So only after you put down the structure, be sure to include separate ideas in different paragraphs, write down the response. It's okay to be personal, to consider various approaches, but make sure that you have a coherent stance on the issue. In other words, Israelis particularly love to do, I think this, but I also think that. I also think that. And you finish the essay not knowing what the person is thinking. Sorry to interrupt you. That is problematic. You have no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah, okay. If I read your essay and I don't know what you're thinking, that is a huge problem. So it's better if you commit to a certain point of view. Yeah, there is a small chance that a neo-Nazi is not going to like it, but it's a very, very tiny chance, got it? It's better to commit to something. So only after you have the structure, and please bear in mind, this should take you about 3 minutes. You should not, absolutely not, start writing an essay before 3 minutes have elapsed. Then you write the essay for about 18 minutes, not more than that, and you leave time to proofread. You leave time. Yeah.
What?
Proofread. לערוך את זה לשונית. כן.
אם אני כותבת נגיד על השואה, פסקה, ואז אני פותחת עוד פסקה על איך האנשים האלה סובלים מה...
איך האנשים האלה סובלים?
איך